Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, President Donald Trump will sit down this week in Beijing with Chinese leader Xi Jinping for a summit overshadowed by the Iran war and many other issues around the world. The visit from 13th to 15th May will be the first to China by a U.S. president in nearly a decade and comes at a pivotal moment for ties between the world's two largest economies. What will be on the agenda and what do we have to watch out for? We'll bring you all the details on the show.
Also on World DNA, Donald Trump has said that the ceasefire with Iran is on life support and that he is considering restarting U.S. military escorts of ships through the Strait of Hormuz in an attempt to end the Iranian blockade of the vital waterway. The U.S. president dismissed Iran's peace proposals, calling it stupid, quote-unquote, and denied that he was under any domestic pressure to reach a deal. We'll bring you the latest on that. Let's start with the headlines first. This is World DNA.
Wall Street Journal reports citing sources that UAE carried out attacks on Iran early last month, revealing previously unknown participation in the war by the Gulf country. The strikes allegedly targeted a refinery on Iran's Lawan Island.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, "Sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living."
Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is on life support after strongly rejecting Tehran's response to a U.S. peace proposal, calling it garbage and stupid.
Iran's parliament speaker warns his country's military is ready to teach a lesson to any aggressor after Trump says truce in West Asia is hanging by a thread. Karabakh says a bad strategy and bad decisions will always lead to bad results.
U.S. issues sanctions against 12 individuals and entities, saying they facilitated sale and shipment of Iranian oil to China. Move comes after Britain's sanctions, Iran-linked entities accusing them of plotting attacks in UK and elsewhere.
Ukrainian officials say Kyiv comes under a drone attack shortly after a three-day truce with Russia expires. Authorities report Russian drones over the capital and urge residents to stay in shelters as air defense systems are activated.
Taiwan, I equate it a little bit to that. If you have the right president, I don't think it'll happen. I think we'll be fine. I have a very good relationship with President Xi.
Donald Trump says he is ready to discuss U.S. arms sales to Taiwan during his visit this week to Beijing, noting that his personal chemistry with Xi Jinping would prevent a Chinese invasion of the island.
Philippine Senator and former police chief Ronald De La Rosa takes refuge in Senate after arrest warrant ICC over alleged crimes during Duterte's war on drugs. Senate releases CCTV footage showing him running from the NBI officers.
Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez rejects U.S. President Donald Trump's suggestion that the country could become the 51st U.S. state, stressing that Venezuela values its independence and sovereignty.
Asian markets traded mostly higher as investors shrugged off fresh concerns over the fragile U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Japan and South Korea gained, while overnight on Wall Street, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq hit new record highs.
So far, we've been calling the ceasefire in West Asia fragile, but US President Donald Trump says that the truce is now on life support.
Now, this new Trump diagnosis comes after he had rejected Iran's latest counteroffer in high-stakes negotiations to end the war permanently. And speaking to reporters at the White House, the American president claimed he has the best plan ever to end the war, but did not say what it was. Well, Trump used dramatic language to describe the state of the truce.
It's unbelievably weak, I would say. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. I said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support. They understand these are all medical people. Dr. Oz, life support is not a good thing. Do you agree?
Diagnostic.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living.
Well, Trump claimed that Iranian leaders changed their mind when the parties appear to reach points of agreement, and he accused Iran of going back on an agreement to allow the US to remove its supply of enriched uranium.
Well, they did 2 days ago. They didn't, okay? They did 2 days ago. They said, you're going to have to take it. We were going to go with them, but they changed their mind because they didn't put it in the paper.
Now, Iran responded with a blunt warning of its own. Iran Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said that Iran and its armed forces are prepared for any eventuality. In a post on X, Ghalibaf warned, and I'm just quoting him here, bad strategy and bad decisions always lead to bad results.
Well, Iran's foreign ministry defended its 14-point counter-proposal as reasonable and generous. The proposal reportedly includes recognition of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, an end to the US naval blockade, and a halt to fighting across the region, including Lebanon. Tehran is also demanding the release of frozen Iranian assets held abroad.
Now, Trump says he is considering reviving a U.S. naval escort mission to guide oil tankers safely through the strait, though no final decision has been made.
Now, as part of the standoff, the U.S. Navy has previously fired on vessels to disable them and diverted ships during enforcement operations. But now, Iran has issued its starkest warning against such measures. Ibrahim Razaei, the spokesman for the Iranian Parliament's National Security Commission, declared that Tehran's restraint is over, warning that any attack on Iranian vessels would trigger a strong and decisive response.
The escalating rhetoric comes as the Gulf faces mounting economic and humanitarian pressure from overlapping U.S. and Iranian blockades. Saudi energy giant Aramco has warned investors that even if the strait remained or reopened immediately, it could take months for energy markets to stabilize.
Well, the crisis is also threatening global food security. The United Nations says fertilizer shortages could push an additional 45 million people into hunger and starvation.
And U.S. President Donald Trump is all set to visit China this week for talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping.
Preparations are in full swing for the high-stakes visit, with U.S. Air Force C-17 aircraft already arriving in Beijing. Addressing the media, Trump on Monday said that he will speak to Xi Jinping about the future of U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, which is a long source of friction between the two countries.
In December, Trump announced the largest ever U.S. weapons package for the island, more than $11 billion, that is. However, in the briefing, the U.S. president appeared to downplay the prospects of China trying to seize the self-governing democracy.
Taiwan, I equate it a little bit to that. If you have the right president, I don't think it'll happen. I think we'll be fine. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. He knows I don't want that to happen.
Trump, however, noted that the U.S. was very, very far away from Taiwan compared to China.
Very far away, very, very far away. We're just at 9,500 miles. You know, we're 9,500 miles. He's 67 miles. It's a little bit of a difference, but you know, there's a lot of support for Taiwan from Japan and from countries from that area.
Do you think we should?
Trump also said that he would ask Xi Jinping to free Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong media mogul, who was sentenced in February to 20 years in prison, which is effectively a death sentence for the ailing 78-year-old.
The U.S. president at the same time appeared to show understanding for the position of Beijing, which clamped down hard on Hong Kong after mass pro-democracy protests in 2019.
But Jimmy Lai isn't that way. But Jimmy Lai, he caused lots of turmoil for China. He tried to do the right thing. He wasn't successful, went to jail, and people would like him out, and I'd like to see him get out too. So I'll bring him up again.
Ahead of his return to Beijing after nearly half a decade, Trump several times have hailed his ties with Xi, saying they have gotten along well on everything but COVID. Well, his two-day summit with Xi carries more energy market weight than any bilateral meeting in recent memory.
Well, the talks come as the world grapples with what the International Energy Agency has called the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market, with the near-total closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
I have a great relationship with President Xi, and I think you can see that with the fact that in Hormuz, they get a big percentage, 40% of their oil from Hormuz. There's been no ships coming in, no nasty ships coming in that we end up in skirmishes with. He'd like to see it get done. He doesn't want to see, I'll tell you what, look, I respect him a lot, and hopefully he respects me.
Well, much of Iran's oil is bound for Asia, with China a major importer. And in the latest, U.S. has issued sanctions against 12 individuals and entities that it said facilitated the sale and shipment of Iranian oil to China.
But Trump is also eyeing business opportunities during his visit to China, as evident from the more than a dozen CEOs and top executives joining the U.S. delegation, including Elon Musk of Tesla and Apple's Tim Cook.
And well, to discuss more, we are now being joined by John Rosamondo, who is the president of Viking Research Associates, geostrategist, and an expert on national security. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Always a pleasure having you. We'll come to the themes of the meeting and everything, but I'll start with the latest. That is, of course, Taiwan. That remains a very big flashpoint between the two nations. And we have Trump, who is saying that he is, thinking of this deal with Taiwan. How do you think that talks will proceed when he goes to talks with Xi Jinping?
Well, I think that you'll have some rather tense talks because, the mainland doesn't want the United States providing any arms to Taiwan to defend itself. I think that, looking at domestic issues in China, where Xi has eviscerated the general staff of the People's Liberation Army. Now, with U.S. arms finding their way into the Taiwanese military, makes his 2027 goal of taking over Taiwan farther away.
John, let me bring your attention to the Strait of Hormuz, because trade and tariffs, Taiwan and Strait of Hormuz, these seem to be critical in this visit. Let me come to the Strait of Hormuz. It was just a week ago where the Iranian foreign minister was in Beijing. China has made it clear that they support Iran in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security. This is the backdrop in which this meeting is taking place. Of course, there is a US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and China does get hurt by that, because a large part of its crude oil passes through this strait. How do you feel US is going to be leveraging its hold on the Strait of Hormuz and the current war to get China to the negotiation table, because there are going to be deals here?
Well, let's put it this way. The blockade has been, as we would say here in the U.S., Swiss cheese. You've had lots of ships that have made it through the blockade, plus the Chinese and the Iranians have taken to shipping oil in tanker cars by rail to China. So this blockade that the president is, pushing, isn't as harmful to China as he would think.
And that being said, of course, this meeting is also happening where there's going to be midterm elections in the U.S. So how do you analyze, how much pressure do you think is on Trump to get a good deal, and how much of a possibility do you think it looks like in that happening?
Well, President Trump is under enormous pressure. The war is highly unpopular here. At least 60%, according to a Marist poll, oppose the war, and the Democrats are chomping at the bit to impeach him. So there's lots of incentive for this president to try to get something accomplished, even if it's a bad deal.
John, in terms of China's support, given their relations with Iran, what would US be expecting from China to do to resolve the ongoing conflict?
Well, I think that China would be expected to stop funneling arms and funneling support to Iran. That's not happening. The Chinese have been flying weapons to Iran and taking advantage of President Trump's self-declared ceasefire. And the Chinese have been treating the whole thing as a bit of a farce, and President Trump has become the butt of their joke.
And that being said, of course, we have the West Asia war. We also have the Taiwan issue. Then we also have the tariff issue, and maybe in deals. And because we have all these business executives like Elon Musk traveling with so many issues, what are the things that will be washed out for in these meetings?
Well, I think that they'll be trying to come down to an agreement on tariffs. I mean, let's not forget that a trade war with the threat of one preceded the Wuhan virus outbreak in 2019. So the president and Xi have been pushing the tariff issues for years, and I don't see where the daylight is.
John, just bringing your attention back to Taiwan, last year, the US Congress had approved an $11 billion arms sales package to Taiwan. Reportedly, that's been stalled by the State Department ahead of this upcoming summit. And there's also some amount of positive messaging that has come in from the US. Trump relaxed restrictions on the sale of advanced semiconductors to China, shown little support for Taiwan, at least in terms of what I just mentioned, the arms package, and reportedly ordered the Pentagon to cut references to China being a threat from the US defense strategy. That's also a change in terminology. As far as Taiwan is concerned, they say we do not support Taiwanese independence. Do you feel China would be looking at more from the US in terms of their stance on Taiwan? Perhaps a statement suggesting that US opposes Taiwanese independence instead of just does not support, because that's crucial for China. Anything comes to Taiwan and China becomes belligerent. We've seen that in 2022 as well, when Nancy Pelosi went and relations nosedived during the Biden administration when she was in Taiwan, sitting House Speaker, going to Taiwan, and China did not react well to that at all. The previous visit by a US president to China was in 2017, and now again it's Trump who's going back. And if you look at the visits to China by US presidents before Trump, in Barack Obama visited 2009, 2013, 2014, 2016, almost on a yearly basis they were visiting, and then there was a complete lull in the last 9 years. So coming back, just making it concise, what would China be expecting from the US in terms of Taiwan and other crucial issues for them?
Well, China would be expecting the U.S. to back down on its military support for the island, which it considers to be part of China. I mean, one thing that then also to back down on its trade sanctions against China. I think that President Trump is, frankly, appeasing them, and I don't see any, up to it, other than the Chinese continuing to steal our technology and becoming more and more of a threat.
That's an important point. You talked about technology, because that has been coming up in the news and more often. When we were talking about Taiwan, how do you think the allies of U.S. will be looking at these meetings, for example, Japan or India, for instance?
Well, I think that Japan is probably nervous about President Trump, backing down, giving away too much, because the current Prime Minister of Japan, you know, uh, is very much a hawk against China, and has classified China's threat against Taiwan as a national security issue. I think that as far as India is concerned, we already have strains between New Delhi and Washington because of Trump's trade threats. But I think that the India is probably watching to see how President Trump fares and whether he backs down, because it could give a little bit of a look into how India should handle him.
John, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. A lot of positive messaging that's coming in from the US Embassy here in India. So let's see how US wants to take this forward. Marco Rubio coming in soon enough, and we'll need to watch that one. Of course, for now, it's the Trump-Xi summit meeting happening after 9 years. A big deal for both countries, largest economies in the world. Lots to watch out for. We'll discuss with you again.
Thank you.
Now, 6 people were found dead inside a train, a boxcar near the Texas-Mexico border, with early findings from a cross-agency investigation pointed to extreme heat as a possible cause.
Well, this comes after a worker from Union Pacific opened a shipping container at a remote rail yard and discovered the 6 bodies on Sunday. Officers and firefighters then reached the scene and confirmed all 6 individuals, 5 men, 1 woman, they had died.
Will probably likely proceed from here is an autopsy will probably take place as to determine the cause and manner of the death of the victims in this case. And from there, we'll go ahead and proceed with other facets of the investigation.
Well, an autopsy examination on the 29-year-old woman ruled out her death as accidental, caused by hyperthermia or heat stroke. Medical examiners believe the remaining victims likely died from heat exposure as well, but further examinations are pending till we reach a conclusion.
Investigators recovered identification cards and mobile phones suggesting the victims may have come from Mexico and Honduras. Authorities have taken fingerprints and shared them with U.S. Border Patrol under its Missing Alien program to confirm identities. Officials also contacted the Mexican consulate after identifying the woman.
United States Laredo is a major land port of entry that frequently handles cross-border trade and sits along routes often used for undocumented migration. Authorities, however, have not confirmed any link between the deaths and the smuggling operation. The case echoes past tragedy near the border, including a 2022 incident in San Antonio where 53 migrants had died inside a sweltering truck. And this was the deadliest human smuggling case in U.S. history. We'll be taking a very short break on World Day. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. When dramatic moments were witnessed at the Philippine Senate after a senator took refuge in the legislative building to escape arrest. We'll get you all the details on the other side.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is one.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines at this hour.
PM Modi to begin five-nation tour from May 15th, visiting UAE, Sweden, the Netherlands, Norway and Italy. In UAE, he will discuss energy cooperation and trade with President Al Nahyan. He will also attend India-Nordic Summit in Norway.
Wall Street Journal reports, citing sources, that UAE carried out attacks on Iran early last month, revealing previously unknown participation in the war by the Gulf country. The strikes allegedly targeted a refinery on Iran's Lavan Island.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living.
Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is on life support after strongly rejecting Iran's response to a U.S. peace proposal, calling it garbage and stupid.
U.S. issues sanctions against 12 individuals and entities, saying they facilitated sale and shipment of Iranian oil to China. Move comes after Britain sanctions Iran-linked entities, accusing them of plotting attacks in UK and elsewhere.
Israeli PM condemns European Union after it imposes sanctions on Israeli settler organizations over violence against Palestinians. His office says Israel and US are doing Europe's dirty work by funding extremist threats.
Ukrainian officials say Kiev comes under a drone attack shortly after a 3-day truce with Russia expires. Authorities report Russian drones over the capital and urge residents to stay in shelters as air defense systems are activated.
Philippine Senator and former police chief Ronald De La Rosa takes refuge in Senate after arrest warrant ICC over alleged crimes during Duterte's war on drugs. Senate releases CCTV footage showing him running from NBI officers.
Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez rejects U.S. President Donald Trump's suggestion that Venezuela could become the 51st U.S. state, stressing that Venezuela values its independence and sovereignty.
Oil prices surged on Tuesday, with Brent crude rising to $104 a barrel and U.S. crude climbing to $98. President Trump warned the Iran ceasefire is on massive life support, fueling fears of prolonged conflict in West Asia. Now, the Philippine Senate saw high drama on Monday after a senator took refuge in the legislative building to escape arrest.
Well, Senator Ronald De La Rosa is wanted by the International Criminal Court for his alleged role in former President Rodrigo Duterte's drug war. Video released by the Senate showed De La Rosa being chased through the halls of the upper chamber, pursued by officers from the National Bureau of Investigation. De La Rosa, who had not been seen publicly since November, appeared in the Senate to cast a vote in the election of the new Senate president.
The Senate had earlier been placed under lockdown with barbed wire and riot police surrounding the compound's closed gates. Well, newly elected Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano later told reporters that De La Rosa was under the Senate's protection. The National Bureau of Investigation then dropped its plans to arrest De La Rosa, ending the standoff.
De La Rosa, who served as police chief and Duterte's top enforcer during the bloody drug crackdown, will be treated as being in the custody of the Senate. In February, De La Rosa, fellow Senator Christopher Go, and 6 others, they were identified as co-perpetrators in former President Duterte's crimes against humanity case in documents released by ICC prosecutors, who have charged Duterte with 3 counts of crimes against humanity, alleging his involvement in at least 76 murders between 2013 and 2018 as part of his war on drugs.
While all this drama unfolded in the Senate, lawmakers in the House of Representatives voted to impeach Vice President Sara Duterte for a second time. Now, the articles of impeachment accuse Sara Duterte, the daughter of former President Rodrigo Duterte, of graft, corruption, bribery, and an alleged assassination plot against President Ferdinand Marcos.
With 255 members voting in the affirmative, 26 against, 9 abstention, House Resolution number 989, together with the findings, conclusion, recommendations contained in Committee Report number 261 are hereby adopted.
Under the Philippine Constitution, an impeachment vote triggers a trial in the Senate where a guilty verdict could see Sara Duterte removed from the vice presidency and even banned from holding elected office for life. India's anti-money laundering agency has arrested former West Bengal minister and TMC leader Sujit Bose in connection with the alleged municipality recruitment scam.
And according to the Enforcement Directorate, Bose is accused of illegally recommending nearly 150 candidates for various municipal posts in exchange for monetary benefits. And during the course of the investigation being carried out under the provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA, the ED claimed to have identified direct proceeds of crime allegedly linked to Bose.
Officials said the agency has traced multiple flats acquired by Bose, also substantial cash deposit in bank accounts allegedly linked to him. ED suspects these are connected to payments received in exchange for securing government jobs.
Now, Bose will be produced before a special PMLA court today, where the agency is likely to seek his custodial remand for further interrogation. The arrest comes amid a broader crackdown by the agency on recruitment-related irregularities in West Bengal. Now, the Bihar state government has drawn a hard line, warning vehicle owners to remove all caste-related words, phrases and stickers or face legal action.
The Bihar Transport Department has given people until the first week of June to voluntarily clear their vehicles of such displays. After that, the Bihar Traffic Police will begin a massive statewide crackdown with special vehicle checking drives. Offenders could face fines starting from Rs 500 and going up to Rs 2,000 under the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988.
Authorities say the order applies to all forms of caste-based messages displayed on vehicles. Bihar is not the first state to act against such practice. In August 2023, police in Noida and Ghaziabad issued more than 2,300 challans during a special drive against caste and religious stickers. In 2025, the Uttar Pradesh government announced a statewide ban on such displays.
While Haryana Police also launched a similar enforcement drive in Panchkula, India's Motor Vehicles Act already prohibits stickers on number plates, and many states are now expanding action as well to include the body of vehicles. Bihar is also preparing for tech-driven enforcement, and the state cabinet has approved an AI-based traffic management system with smart cameras at major intersections. These cameras will detect violations in real time and generate automated e-challans instantly. And Pakistan reportedly allowed Iranian military aircraft to park at one of its key air bases during the recent conflict between Iran and the US.
And this even as it positioned itself as a mediator between the two sides. And according to American officials cited by the CBS News, Iran also sent civilian aircraft to park in neighboring Afghanistan. The report claimed that multiple Iranian aircraft were sent to Pakistan Air Force Base Noor Khan near Rawalpindi shortly after President Trump announced a ceasefire with Iran in early April. Well, among them was an Iranian Air Force RC-130, a reconnaissance and intelligence gathering variant of the Lockheed C-130 Hercules. The officials say that the move may have shielded Iranian assets from potential American airstrikes. Pakistan, however, has rejected the claims, with a senior official telling CBS News that such aircraft could not be hidden at Noor Khan base located in the heart of the city.
Iran also positioned civilian aircraft in Afghanistan, according to an Afghan civil aviation officer who spoke to CBS News. One airjet landed in Kabul before the war began, and the aircraft was later moved to Herat airport near the Iranian border for safety when Pakistan began airstrikes on Kabul in March. Taliban spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid denied these claims, stating that Iran does not need to do that. The revelations add to concerns over Pakistan's increasingly delicate balancing act in global diplomacy.
And it was one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in modern history.
A colossal explosion that sent shockwaves around the planet and blasted material high into Earth's atmosphere. But now scientists say the Hunga Tonga eruption may have done something nobody expected. It may have started destroying methane in the sky. This next story brings you the details.
The 2022 Hunga Tonga eruption was so powerful it shook the atmosphere, blasting ash, seawater and gases more than 50 kilometers above Earth. Satellites watched a massive plume punch through the sky with extraordinary force. Scientists first focused on the immediate destruction, the tsunamis, the ash clouds, the shockwave that circled the globe. But high above the Pacific, something stranger may have happened. New research suggests the eruption may have triggered a burst of methane destruction in the atmosphere. Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas, and scientists did not expect a volcano to reduce it. Researchers believe the eruption injected huge amounts of water vapor and reactive chemicals into the upper atmosphere, intensifying reactions that break methane apart. The process occurred high above Earth in atmospheric layers that are difficult to study. The findings are both exciting and puzzling. Volcanic eruptions are usually linked to climate disruption, but this event may have temporarily boosted natural methane removal instead. It is a discovery that has left the global scientific community stunned. We are seeing, for the very first time, how the planet might be capable of a rapid chemical reset. Well, scientists are not saying volcanoes can solve climate change. The effect was limited and does not offset global emissions. But the discovery offers a rare natural experiment, helping researchers understand how methane behaves under extreme atmospheric conditions. For now, one thing is clear. An eruption that already stunned the world may also have quietly altered Earth's atmospheric chemistry in ways science is only beginning to understand.
Alphabet is on the brink of overtaking Nvidia as the world's most valuable company.
The AI darling NVIDIA may be the leader in AI chips, but Alphabet is emerging as big tech's broader winner in recent months. Google's parent firm, Alphabet, is in a tight race to overtake NVIDIA as the world's most valuable company. And that is being fueled by a surge in AI-related momentum and a shift in investor focus towards integrated AI applications. Alphabet's market value has recently hovered near $4.8 trillion. The firm has narrowed the size gap with NVIDIA significantly from a 70% valuation difference in late 2024. Alphabet's businesses include Google Search, Google Cloud, YouTube, and Waymo. The firm's Gemini AI model ranks amongst the best.
Well, currently, Nvidia is the world's most valuable company. The firm has a market value of about $5.25 trillion. Nvidia was the first company in the world to breach the $5 trillion mark. The company's market value is higher than the total gross domestic product of India. However, Alphabet is now closing in on Nvidia. The firm uses tensor processing units or TPUs to decrease its dependence on Nvidia's GPUs, and this offers a competitive choice for data centers. Google Cloud's revenue increased by 63% in the most recent quarter, and this growth was due to high demand for its AI services and infrastructure. Alphabet is seen as a more complete AI player than NVIDIA. It integrates its Gemini models and AI technology throughout its ecosystem, and this includes search, YouTube, and Android. The firm has strengthened its position with major clients such as Anthropic.
NVIDIA remains dominant, but its growth has faced pressure. The risks come from an AI chip development by its own customers. There's also a shift in market focus towards the application layer of the AI revolution. It's where the Alphabet is currently accelerated. U.S. advocacy group has urged the Trump administration to screen advanced AI models for national security risks.
And this is before they are released to the public. The group, called Americans for Responsible Innovation, says that companies should also be denied government contracts if their AI models fail security reviews. The warning comes as U.S. officials assess the risks of Anthropic's Mythos model, which could make sophisticated cyber attacks faster and easier to carry out.
The recommendation was outlined by the advocacy group in a letter sent to Trump administration officials calling for mandatory security testing of frontier AI models before they can be publicly deployed or used in government projects.
Well, the letter argues that rapidly advancing AI systems could create new national security threats, particularly in areas such as cyber attacks and weapons development. The group says companies developing powerful AI systems should be required to pass federal safety reviews in order to qualify for lucrative government contracts. It is also urging the U.S. Center for AI Standards and Innovation to lead the development of mandatory testing requirements.
Last week, a report by the New York Times said U.S. President Donald Trump was considering a new move to introduce government oversight for advanced artificial intelligence models, with plans including a possible review system and a dedicated AI working group to assess new models before public release. The report stated that the White House was discussing an executive order to create a dedicated AI working group, bringing together tech leaders and government officials to evaluate oversight mechanisms for new AI systems.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon reached agreements with 8 leading companies earlier this month to use their AI tools in its classified networks. And these companies include SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, NVIDIA, Reflection, Microsoft, Oracle, and Amazon Web Services. It already has existing AI contracts with companies like Palantir and OpenAI. There's exactly a month to go for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, but the world's biggest sporting event still does not have an official broadcaster in the 2 most populated countries, India and China.
FIFA officials are reportedly flying to China in a bid to get the country's state broadcaster to buy the television rights for this year's World Cup at a subsidized rate. Well, for an event of this magnitude, deals are usually agreed months, if not years in advance. However, that is not the case for India and China. FIFA has confirmed a total of 180 countries have completed the deal, but a handful of countries, including India and China, are yet to have an official broadcaster for the World Cup.
For China, FIFA's initial offer to state broadcaster CCTV for the rights was reportedly as high as $300 million. FIFA has now reportedly lowered the price to $120 million, but it is still a long way away from the $80 million that CCTV is willing to pay. Now, in a bid to convince the broadcasters, FIFA's Secretary General is traveling to China this week, along with FIFA's Director of Media Rights, to discuss this matter.
And as for India, the problems are similar. There are no takers for the World Cup broadcast for a price as low as $35 million. And this is not just for the 2026 World Cup. It is a combined rights deal for the 2030 edition as well. Well, for some perspective, the digital and television rights for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar were sold for $62 million.
Now, the biggest problem that the broadcasters are seeing is the timing of the matches in Indian Standard Time. Unlike the Qatar World Cup, which offered prime-time evening slots for Indian audiences, the 2026 matches will largely air between 12:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. IST, and that effectively wipes out mass-market advertising potential.
But compared to cricket, which is undoubtedly the biggest draw for broadcasters in India, football does not offer many advertising opportunities, with only the halftime break offering some space for advertisements. Well, British pop star Dua Lipa has filed a lawsuit against Samsung Electronics, accusing the tech giant of using her image without permission to promote its television sets.
Well, the singer is reportedly seeking at least $15 million in damages. Now, according to the lawsuit, Samsung allegedly used a copyrighted image of Dua Lipa and this was on the front of television packaging sold in stores, creating the impression that she was the one connected to or endorsing the product herself. The image in question, titled Dua Lipa Backstage at Austin City Limits 2024, is said to be fully owned by the singer. The case has been filed in a federal court in California. Samsung has declined to comment on the matter, saying it cannot speak on ongoing legal proceedings. Dua Lipa's legal team has also not issued an official statement so far.
Along the copyright and trademark infringement, the singer has accused Samsung of violating her publicity rights by allegedly using her identity for commercial gain. The filing also includes screenshots from social media posts and online comments that, according to Dua Lipa's lawyers, show how the packaging may have influenced buyers. Well, in one comment attached to the lawsuit, a fan reportedly wrote that they would buy the TV just because Dua is on it. Well, the 30-year-old singer's team claims she first became aware of the alleged use of her image in June last year and had asked Samsung to stop, but the company allegedly continued using it. Dua Lipa's lawyers argue that the alleged unauthorized use of her image has damaged her brand value and commercial reputation by giving consumers the impression that she officially endorsed Samsung's products. It now remains to be seen how the situation unfolds.
And at Sofia's glamorous cat show expo, elegance met whiskers at 150 elite felines as they came from across Europe and competed for top honors.
Well, here's our next story as cat lovers gathered to celebrate the charm, grace, and growing popularity of cats in Bulgaria. We'll leave you with the support. Do stay tuned. News and a bits will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World is One.
Cats give so much love, but I think every person, especially children from a young age, can become a better version of themselves when they have a pet. When children grow up with a pet, it helps them become more caring, empathetic, and compassionate later in life.
All cats are beautiful, but I need to look a little bit on the standard from the FIFA we have, and I need to look for the points. And I'm very happy if the people come here and show me her beautiful cats and I can say something about it.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and